I'm at Sullivan Park today, and as you can see in the water, it's actually quite muddy. Wasn't expecting that. I got a new lure that I wanted to try, but I was expecting it to be on the clear side because I was hoping to try it to catch any trout on the top. I might still do that and see what happens. I'm back on this side again. Everyone seems to like the other side, so I'll just take the side that people don't want. This dirty water is really unexpected. Today I'm going to try this bait. It's floating salmon eggs. That's Gulp Alive. I really like the Gulp Alive series of lures just because they are biodegradable and they tend to have quite a bit of scent. And as you could tell, this is completely unopened, so starting fresh. I did bring a replacement bottle so that I can change it out. Already got my first piece of trash here. Walk right into a fishing line. So I'm going to start this by simply rigging one of these little bait balls on my 1/16 ounce jig head that's already been tied on. I could tell already it's very soft, which means to me it's probably holding quite a bit of scent. Need to check to make sure I don't have any frayed line. Looks like I'm good. Again, I'm gonna leave the jar there because I'm sure it's going to leak. I don't even have to guess because it is Berkeley's jars and they're actually quite bad for that. And we'll put on a float and drop this probably about 5 feet down. There we go, first cast. Let's just land it though. There we go, that looks like a nice sized trout. Let's see. It's always a good way to start the day. It's on the thick side. It's right at 11 inches. Okay. There you go. First trout of the day, first cast. So that's a good sign of this bait. We'll try another. Now, I did lose the bait, but I think I read that there's probably about 50 of these eggs in here, so I think I paid about $5.50 for this bait, and so that's not too expensive. I suspect I'll get more off of this than a jar of Powerbait dough. One thing that I noticed is it held on to it for quite a bit too, because I did let that bobber stay down for a second or two. There's another. Turn my head and catch another one, so I think I can say that this is a bait that will definitely catch fish. That's 2, 4, 6. Looks like just a little over 8 inches. So, little guy. Bye-bye. So it's definitely working in this muddy water. Whether it's the scent and or the color, something's working with it. And again, that's right around 5 feet down. Doesn't have to be perfect or accurate on the depth. I used to always think that you had to when I was a kid and reading books. I would always actually measure out my line thinking that's what had to happen, but it's really just a guess. So the next thing I'm going to try is catching a trout on the top using this, since it's supposed to float. Of course, with the 1/16 ounce jig head that I have on right now, there's no way that I'm going to be able to float it with that, so I'm going to have to switch to just a bare hook and see if that works. Up, it went down. Now here's the real test. When it goes on, and because I have a barbless hook, do I still have my bait on there? I don't think I do. That bait seems to come off fairly easily. I'm just going to reel it in just to see, because I don't think that it's there. And it's not. So another way to look at this bait is you catch 50 fish with it, and then you probably need a new jar, but that's a good amount of fish again. I don't think that that's any worse than Powerbait, since on Powerbait you typically lose it after you catch a fish also. The trout dough bait. I think I'm going to switch over to the other side since that guy left. Mainly just because I don't want to be looking into the sun. I'm getting little bites there, but that's all. Even then I lost the bait with those little bites, so very delicate bait from that perspective, but if it catches fish, that's still not a bad thing. I've never counted how many pieces of bait I've rolled using the dough, so I don't know if it's as equivalent of this. I suspect that I get about the same amount, if not less. So let's go on this side. It'll also make it easier for you to see instead of having the sun beaming straight into the camera on the water. Plus, I haven't fished this other side in a while. I don't want to set up any biases that the other side is a better place to catch or anything like that. I believe in these community ponds, since they're stocking hundreds to thousands at a time, that there's a lot of trout here, and for the most part, other than maybe the shallow area nearby the bridge, it ought to be about the same. I have actually caught quite a few trout at the end of the season last year around that shallow area. I have used the Powerbait Magnum eggs in the past, and I would say that the bite was never as fast as it has been with this. I could already see something's biting it. So I didn't get anything here. I'm wondering if I need to shorten it up, maybe go 4 feet. It could be that the other side's a little deeper. There. Oh, nope. I wish people won't leave their hooks out here. There are pets and kids that walk around. I know it's a pet peeve of mine, but I really think that everyone should be a little more conscientious about leaving things, especially hooks. There we go. That took a while sitting there, but I guess they're a bit more skittish over here. That was cool. There we go. That's a little guy. He's right at a little over 8 inches. Still a nice trout. Let's let him go. Oh. Okay, here. Let's do it this way. Bye-bye. So I can catch on this side, I can catch on the other side. This side was a bit slower, and as soon as I saw them tap it, I'd had to wait a bit. But that still means that they're still biting. So now I'm going to switch to hook and a clear float to see if I can catch anything. Well, it doesn't float with a number 8. It doesn't float with a number 10 either. It slow sinks, so I'll have to use 2 of them on there. That's disappointing because I have used a Powerbait Magnum egg before and was able to get it float with a number 10 hook, so looks like I'd have to go with either 2 eggs or a size 12. Admittedly, sometimes on the Magnum egg I'd have to use add 2 bait. It just seemed to be somewhat inconsistent. So for the float, I will be using this. It has those little wire catches, and I'm just going to separate it by maybe 3 feet, 4 feet. It's so muddy, I doubt that the trout are going to see this float. Haven't used this float before, I've just had it in my gear for some time. And so, much like how I fish my jigs under a float, I'm going to slowly reel this one in and see if anything comes to the top. Well, looks like even though it doesn't float completely at this really slow pace that I'm reeling in, it's keeping the hook still high enough that I could actually see it. Not sure if it's showing up in the video, but I can see that the egg is probably an inch under the water, so that's not bad. That's essentially what I was hoping for. Let's go over here. For some reason the trout like to jump in this area. If you haven't watched any of my prior videos, the reason why I'm trying this out is I've had several trout actually attack my bobbers. So I'm thinking this time I want to see if I can catch it on the surface using some kind of bait that floats. I extended the leader end from the bobber to about 4 feet, and then I also double wrapped the bottom part of the wire because it kept slipping. So we'll see if this helps. Wrapping it twice seems to have made it not slip. Oh, look at that. There's a trout that's right nearby my bobber. What I wonder on that is the trout chasing a fish, a little fish that had to go to the surface, or if they're actually eating something actively on the surface. There's no bugs out here, so something tells me that they're just chasing a little fish, and the little fish made it all the way to the surface. That trout had a double jump to it, which kind of supports that theory, but not sure unless I can get a camera down in there, and that's going to be impossible. Well, that is a dud. Going to put the 1/16 ounce jig head back on to prove that it still works, and then also I am going to switch it to some other soft plastic bait to see if it catches just as well. Starting around 4 feet again, and going to use the same bait that I had in there before. Supposedly they said that you can put this bait back inside of the fluid in the jar and refresh the scent on it. Of course, that assumes that you kept your bait and you didn't lose it to a fish. Actually, I wanted to cast that where those trout were. I think something's... yeah, there we go. It's swimming straight to me, or not fighting. There it is. It's a little guy. The little guys are on this side. There we go. That one's right at 8 inches. Yeah, that's a nice little trout. Bye-bye. I actually think this catches faster than Powerbait, but I just happen to bring Powerbait. There's our Powerbait. We're going to cast in the same area that we've caught some fish before. Oh, great. Got a bird's nest. Just loosen your drag and just keep pulling it sideways until that little loop goes away. And there it is, it's gone. Fast way to get it out. Make sure you tighten your drag. And it doesn't look like anything ate my Powerbait, which is good, because I was worried that I'd gut hook it if I just let it sit there. It is on a jig head, so it's less likely to, because the jig head's going to be horizontal and the trout will end up hitting it. So you can see my Powerbait is still on. We'll try another spot that we were getting bites. I am reeling it in nice and slow like I did with the salmon eggs. There's the little bite. Still have my Powerbait. That's different from the salmon eggs, so it does stay on a bit longer. There, something bit it, something biting it. No, they're just playing with it. They apparently like the Powerbait, but they're just kind of gumming it or something else. On the salmon egg, they were a lot more aggressive. There it is. So, Powerbait and salmon eggs catch about the same. right at 8 inches. Nice little trout. And bye-bye. I see the other difference though that might be why the salmon eggs was catching faster is that these are smaller trout and their mouths may not be able to fit around the size power bait that I was putting on there. So I made the ball about the same size as the salmon egg. I think they usually want you to make it bigger because people want it to float. Since I'm using it as a tipping a jig head under a bobber, I don't have to worry about whether or not it floats this hook. There. And like I was saying, I think the smaller bait made it where I was able to catch these little guys. So I think my review or opinion of the salmon egg is, if you're not going to rig it like people normally do with the power bait, then I think under a bobber like this it works out really well, and it gets a fast bite like power bait does. It's faster to put on because you don't have to ball it up, you don't have to worry about it drying out. The only thing that you have to worry about is if it leaks. And you can see what I do is I transfer it to these jars that has the styrofoam under the lid. I got this, got several of these out of Amazon for very little. It might be $1 a jar or less. So for me, just because I like the speed and convenience, and I suspect that I'll get more fish off of the salmon bites or the salmon eggs, I kind of like the salmon eggs. Anyhow, if you come over to Sullivan Park, be aware it's going to be dingy and dirty, so not as pretty as the waters that we've had in the past, and so you don't get to see your fish from further out. In the past I could actually see it 20-30 feet away. Not sure why it's dirty. We didn't have any rain, but that's what it's like right now. Hope you liked the video. If you did, please like and subscribe. If you have any comments or questions about anything that I've done in the video, or anything regarding fishing in general, please leave me a comment. There we go. Nice. There we go. And got that on the salmon eggs. It's a bigger size one too. Oh, look at that. Haha. I got a bass. Nice little bass. That's pretty cool to catch them. Let's see. You need to put them on the scale or the ruler. 10-inch bass. Nice. In December. Can't complain about that. And with that, I'm out of here. Tight lines all.